Welcome back, everybody. My name is All Funny Games. I stream every day on Twitch TV, and I also make fun little videos here on YouTube. Today, what I would like to do is something different. Normally, I'm making help videos for Don't Starve Together or other games out there as well. Today, I want to make a video where you post your ideas for what you would like to see happen in DST. This could be the smallest idea to the biggest idea. Whether it be just you want to see a variety of different colors for animals in DST, or you want to see some new archives being added with new bosses and new areas and etc, etc, etc. So for those of you who don't know, there's multiple ways for your ideas to actually get published. Sorry, I shouldn't say published. Viewed by Klei. One is obviously the forums. Klei looks on the forums all the time. It's their resource for seeing lots of content because they're able to actually go through and moderate the forums. They have actual staff moderating it and making sure that, you know, things are probably getting posted and probably getting viewed. So post on the forums is definitely number one. Number two would be their Discord. Their Discord is now the secondary way for them to get information directly to the devs. So their Klei official Discord. And of course, the third is making content like this, where you make a video, you're streaming, and Klei potentially could come by and say, hey, you know what? We watched this video and we kind of like the ideas that we see here. So that being said, let's go ahead and I will start with my own. Now, keep in mind, when it comes to ideas, there should never be anybody feeling bad for posting their ideas or talking about their ideas. I think nowadays, when it comes to new games or games in general that you appreciate and that you love, any idea or any feedback or any criticism or anything like that is always welcome. You can't really grow as a company unless you take that criticism or take those ideas and push out what you believe to be the best. Now, keep in mind, a lot of the times, people used to look at different mods, for example, on the workshop for DST and say, yes, that's a mod. I'm probably never going to use that. I don't believe in using mods. Well, we've seen multiple times mods that are originally started as mods for DST moved into the original game. So now we know that even if you're making a mod that you might think, hey, this is a really cool idea, eventually we could see that be migrated into a quality of life change in DST. So that brings you back to the idea that really any idea is a good idea. Whether, of course, it's, you know, making all characters' hair turn purple or whatever it might be. Of course, you know, there's some far-fetched ideas out there, I'm sure. But that being said, I would like to hear about them in the comments. So what I'm going to do is every time an idea gets posted, I will respond to it and say, hey, you know, I like it and what I think this would be a cool thing or whatever I might say, or maybe I'll give you my feedback on it and we can kind of go from there. And here's hoping that Klei or somebody might see it and see some cool stuff and maybe your idea will get eventually put into the game. That being said, if they do see it, that's awesome. If they don't, still, regardless, I still think it's awesome to get our ideas out there and getting the ball rolling. Now, let's start with mine. If you've watched my streams, if you've watched my YouTube videos, you know what I want to see in DST. I have played Don't Starve Together since basically 2017. I bought the game before that. I just never really initiated actually playing and learning DST until 2017. Before that, I played normal Don't Starve. I didn't stream it or anything like that. I started streaming and officially getting into it very heavy in 2017. And from there, obviously, the game has spiraled into getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, originally, I started out by doing what a lot of people do, mega basing. I got to day 3000. I enjoyed it. I killed all the bosses numerous times, all the rage, all the misery toad, all those things, killing Malbatross multiple times. And eventually I found myself trying to challenge myself even more and more and more. So now I do, obviously, if you've watched my videos, I play a lot of chaos. I play a lot where chat can try to kill me and interact with my stream. Now, what I would like to see in DST, whether it happen or not, my idea is I would like to see a dungeon or something of the sorts in DST. For example, the pig ruins in Hamlet were very favorable because you can get lost in there and accidentally die. I don't think they were very challenging in Hamlet, but I still think they were challenging enough to make you kind of lose track of where you're going. This sort of thing could be optional in DST. When I say optional, I mean just like the caves. You don't have to go in there if you don't want to. It's not required. It doesn't necessarily need to be there for retaining items. But there's two ways about this. One, it could be a regular dungeon where you enter in and it's very hard to traverse through. And as you go further, you get better gear the further you go down, making the dungeons basically an endless maze. And at the point where you decide, hey, look, I've gone so far, I've gotten all this awesome loot, I want to get out of here before I die. Keep in mind, if you die in the dungeons, you are dead. You will respawn out of the dungeons and you have to re-enter, restarting it all over again. What does this remind you of? It reminds you of the Forge. So I think either one or two things could be added. Either you go into an island that literally is called the Forge Island, which now we see a lot of islands happening. You go on there, you fight in the arena. Upon winning, you can get a item that only has so many uses that basically you can use outside of the forge upon actually completing the forge. And then, you know, the item is very overpowered, or whether it might be a piece of armor or something like that. And then in order to retain all the other ones, you have to go back and complete the forge again, so on, so on, so on. Basically making it so you're challenging yourself enough to get new items each time. As of right now, I find that if you kill the D-Fly numerous times, you obviously know the loot that you're going to be getting. But if you went through something like this, kind of like a trial, you might end up fighting against things that are impossible to kill, knowing that potentially you can get some really awesome loot out of it. I think the dungeons would work really good. It would kind of challenge you, especially I find a lot of people like going into the ruins. Me especially. I like going into the ruins because it's challenging. You don't know if you're ever going to make it or make it out. If something like this was actually possible, and Klei can incorporate it where there is a lot of loot, there's a lot of different items that you can get, but they're very hard to get. And as you get further and further into the dungeons, it's basically impossible to get all the way through. I don't know how they could actually do that, but I think it would be an awesome idea. The consistent challenge to never be able to complete something, the further you get, is actually better than actually being able to, in my opinion, master something, because you're always thriving to get better and better and better. And something like a dungeon would really put a stop to you being able to cap yourself on the full potential of actually mastering everything about it, because as you went on and on and on, it got harder and there was less resources. So when I think of a dungeon, I think of you start out and you enter into the dungeon, you get basic resources, you're able to basically prepare yourself ready to go. You wouldn't be able to bring said gear with you. So keep in mind, you enter into a dungeon. Generally speaking, you most likely will lose all your gear and you'll start with whatever base gear you find in that dungeon. Or they could do it where you can bring your gear, but you have a chance of losing it all and it'd be lost in the dungeon forever. This is actually awesome for both ways, because if you enter into a dungeon, think of it like a hardcore area. What does DST not have? It doesn't have really necessarily that hardcore function. I think it obviously does if you're playing solo or all that other stuff that you decide to make, you know, the generation harder of the world. But if you enter into the dungeon and it makes it so it's basically hard mode, like I said, where you would lose any gear that you have on you permanently, this could actually offer some pretty cool tactics to it. You enter in with the risk knowing, hey, I can lose all my stuff, and the rewards of actually receiving a better item that you can use outside the constant. Or sorry, inside the constant, I should say. I meant outside of the dungeon. And as you go in the dungeon, it keeps re-rolling itself. Some people might question, how the heck are they going to make it be multiple different levels and all that other stuff? I think it could be fairly possible. If they take the idea from Hamlet and they incorporate it into the world, and every time you enter in, it regenerates itself. I don't know how that would be possible necessarily, but if it really managed it, I'm sure Klei could probably put something together. Because I do think something like the Hamlet ruins manipulated a little bit could really make us have a lot of trouble traversing it and give us a challenge. And it would make something that people could potentially never complete. It sounds odd because you might be wondering, why would I want to play something that I could never actually complete? You can complete it to a certain extent, to the point where you're basically getting further and further and further. And say you get to like level 77 and it just goes on and on and on. You're never really finishing and getting to the very end, because I feel like all of us want to be completionists, right? We want to get to the very end and we want to say we did it. And that, as awesome as that is, when we finally do that, we wonder and sit there and go, okay, what's next? But if we have something that's consistently challenging us and giving us new challenges every day, or the enemies are basically getting harder as we go along and we're just basically never able to finish it, we're always wanting to go back and compete and compete and compete. And some people might say, no, that's annoying, I don't actually like that, and to each their own. But I do think that this could attract some people that might be looking for that extra little, spice. And honestly, I think it's been something in the back of my mind for a while, and I've been asking for years. So I don't think it'll ever actually come to DST, but that is my idea. So if you're ever sitting there with an idea and you want to post about it, post it in the comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about my idea, because I really wonder. I also would like to see the gorge be built into DST as well, once again on another little island. I don't see why not. Everyone's always asking, can we have the forge? Can we have the gorge? Well, why not make them a little island on DST that you can play little mini games here and there and get rewards for completing them that you can use in the constant. And honestly, you have to keep doing that in order to get those items again. So yeah, that's my idea. Post your ideas down below. I would love to hear about them. Thanks again for watching. I will see you in the next one.